Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. I am here with a video talking about earthy decks in my tarot collection. And this is a VR to my tarot tube friend Corvin of Tail Raven Tarot and also of Tail Raven Reads. And Corvin made a video just sharing some of the decks that they associate with Earth in their tarot deck collection, and mentioned that they intend to make a video like this for each of the elements, and thinking about how particular decks might speak to those elements for them. So since I work quite a bit with elemental associations in my practice and would describe my practice as elemental for sure, and also have a very earth-based practice or nature-based practice, I really enjoyed this video and thought that I would make a VR. I don't think there's an actual tag per se, but of course anybody can make a VR that would like to. And so it's an interesting thing for me to think about, because I really find that I am attracted to tarot decks that have very strongly elemental suits. And I think I've talked about this before, but like I really like decks where the wands feel really, really fiery and the cups feel really, really watery and so on. So thinking about the elemental associations of a deck overall is an interesting thing to think about, the ways that a deck might represent, of course, every element in the four suits, but also perhaps have a kind of overarching elemental personality about it. So that's kind of how I went about thinking about earth-based decks, or decks that feel like earthy decks for me. Which is definitely a kind of deck that I'm very much attracted to. I am not an earth sign, but I do have a lot of earth in my birth chart, particularly my moon and my Mars are both in Taurus. So while Taurus is not my sun sign, I feel pretty Taurus in quite a few ways. So I will link below Corvin's video with their earthy decks and just share a couple of mine in no particular order. The first deck that I thought of for earthy decks was the one deck that Corvin shared in their video that I also have, and it has Earth in the title, and that's the Majestic Earth Tarot by J.D. Hildegard Hinkle. This is a fairly recent deck to my collection. I've mentioned that I got this deck when some less than perfect condition decks went on sale, so I got one of those after Casper Boy Diviner had mentioned that they were there. And this deck has a botanical kind of back on it, which feels earthy to me. Definitely, looking at the cards this way, it's an earthy color palette. And this is a deck that, all of the suits to me speak to earth. So in this deck, the stone is the earth suit, or pentacles. So we have Spirit of Stone, for example, and like how earth is that, right? It's perfect. And similarly, though, there's a lot of earth in all of the suits in my opinion, similarly to the way that Corvin talks about it. So I chose a couple, the Ace of Water. Of course, water figures prominently in this card. However, it has a kind of forest setting with the waterfall in the background. This looks like places that I like going, that I very much think of earth energy. This could be a place that I've spent time as well. Another water card that feels earthy as well. The tree suit is fire in this deck, which took a little getting used to, but there are the elemental alchemical symbols in the corner, so that helps to remember. But these feel very much like an earthy cards as well. And I associate, of course, earth with winter, so I can see earth there. And in some of the other fire cards, there's only one fire suit, and that's trees in this deck. Clouds are the air suit in this deck, and I can see earth here as well. So true to its name, the Majestic Earth is definitely for me an earthy tarot deck. The second one that I chose is a very recent addition to my collection, the most recent tarot deck addition to my collection, and that is my already beloved Gentle Tarot. And this one, I don't even have the full deck here because it's the deck I'm reading with right now, so some cards are laid out on the table upstairs. So this is the Gentle Tarot by Mari in the Sky. I was backer number 1 on this deck, so you know it's an instant favorite. And this deck just feels really earthy to me in its color palette. The suits are color coded in their borders in a way that makes sense for me as you know, elemental color scheme. But they're also, it's a very earthy color palette in my opinion, my experience of this deck. So in this deck as well, stones are the earth suit. For pentacles, you can see a bee there, I think. That's a bee. Pollinator friend there. Definitely very earthy. A lot of the figures in this deck are nude, not all, but many. So the earth suit definitely feels earth, but really throughout, you know, this is a nine. This is, I love this Nine of Cups. I drew this card once already, and I love this Nine of Cups. This feels very earthy to me, while being a water suit card. Similarly, you know, this is a Ten of Wands, which obviously fire is very, very prominent here, but still it has plants present and the ground present. You know, it still feels like a very earthy kind of feeling to me. And thunder suit as air. Similarly, there's lots of animals throughout this deck, which gives it an earthy feeling for me. I experience a lot of animal or animal focused decks as quite earthy as well. So that's the, I'll show the world. The world card is beautiful in this deck. So that's the Gentle Tarot by Mari in the Sky, another earth tarot deck, at least to me. The third one that I chose is a deck that I haven't used very much in quite a long time, actually, but which definitely feels like an earthy deck to me. And that is the Pagan Otherworlds by Usi. I'm sure everyone will be somewhat familiar with this deck. This is a deck that I used quite a bit when I was interested in learning to work with more pip style decks, but was also kind of terrified because, you know, if you're familiar with this deck, the pips do have some degree of scenery in them. It's not a traditional Marseille deck, but it has quite pip-ish minors. But this is a very earthy deck to me. There's lots of, you know, greenery in the deck. This is the Fool. And, you know, with the deck with Pagan in the title, it's probably not surprising. You know, this is one of the Wands court cards. You know, this has a very earthy feel while being a Wands card. And all of the minors have these kind of scenes at the bottom of the card. So regardless of what suit it is, they do feel quite earthy to me. And there's a kind of overall, again, earthy color palette with the kind of beiges and browns, lots of green, lots of trees and grass and plants throughout the deck. It has an almost antique feel as well. Here are the backs. So this one definitely, though it's not a deck that I use much right now, did quickly come to mind as a earth deck. The next one I chose was the Antique Anatomy Tarot by Claire Goodchild. I have the Antique Anatomy Tarot Ephemera edition, which comes in this tuck box. This is out of print, but Antique Anatomy Tarot has gone mass market. The publisher is escaping me right now, but a version of this deck is available mass market, but it's not identical to this one, so just mention that. And this deck just feels earthy to me, I think in part because it has this almost wooden background color, like the artwork has been done on wood. I know it hasn't, but it feels like that in a way. There's a lot of plants and flowers throughout the deck. This is the Fool card. And there's a lot of bones and tissue in this deck, which feel, very bodily sense of earth, earth as a kind of physicality, the physical body. You get that sense from this deck, but also thinking of earth in terms of, for example, plant and even in some cases animal life comes through in this deck as well. So it definitely feels like an earthy deck throughout its suits to me. The coins are the earth suit in this deck. It is quite a pippish deck again. The fire suit is rods. But again, there's a lot of this, these different plants and flowers throughout. The blades are the air suit. This is a deck where the suits feel less elementally distinct to me, and it just feels more of an earthy deck overall. And the water suit is this elixirs. So again, thinking about earth in terms of physicality or the physical body, and thinking of elixirs as a kind of medicinal, as a water suit is interesting. These are the backs. And again, they also have this kind of antique feel to them. I'm not sure if the backs have changed for the mass market. I've actually never seen the mass market deck in person except for the box. So I'm not sure how similar or different the cards are. I feel like they're definitely similar. I don't think that they're the same though. So that's the Antique Anatomy Ephemera edition. The next one I thought of for a Earth tarot deck is the Tarot of Trees by Dana O'Driscoll. And the rationale for picking this as an earth deck is probably fairly obvious. I associate very much trees with earth. Corvin mentioned this in their video as well, where there's a certain way where trees might be able to be thought of as associated more with a fire suit, in that wands are made of wood, and sometimes, in a deck like the Majestic Earth, trees is actually the name of the fire suit for that reason. But for me, being out in a forest, there's a lot of forest around where I live. I go camping a lot. I go canoeing a lot, kayaking when I can. I don't have a kayak yet, but hopefully someday soon this summer. So when I think about, connecting with earth energy and with earth element, the kinds of settings I think of that are around me are very treed. So that's, partly why this one comes to mind. This is a small copy. I've edged it in a green, which I'm quite proud of this dark green Sharpie edging. I'm very happy with it. This is a deck I will also mention. It was out of print, the Tarot of Trees, but there is now, I think it's a pre-order for another printing of the Tarot of Trees. So there's going to be another like this, and these are quite small compared to the standard tarot size of the Gentle Tarot. You can see the Tarot of Trees is quite small. So there's going to be another small one like this, and then there's also going to be a large card Tarot of Trees, which is closer to the size that the original paintings that make this deck were done at that larger size. This is an extra card regeneration. That feels very earthy to me. I really like this deck. I don't like how shiny it is, but it does shuffle wonderfully well. It's a great reader. It's a deck that is slightly pippish in the minors, but you also get some imagery. You know, this is a Six of Pentacles with some squirrels there gathering. You get some imagery that is a nod to the Smith-Waite, I think, but without being a kind of Smith-Waite, you know, recreation just with trees, right? So it is very much its own deck. But you see, even, you know, in the sword suit as an air suit, has a strong earth energy to me. The cups, strong earth energy to me because how I think of trees. And the wands also feel often, you know, earthy to me. This is a great deck. And the backs have a tree as well. I'm a little bit tempted by the larger size deck. I do really like the small though. This they shuffle really well, despite their glossiness, which is not my favorite. But it's a good deck to take places, I find, as well, because it's so nice and portable and very much a earth deck for me. And the last deck, can you tell I need to get my glasses tightened? I keep pushing them and pushing them. The last deck, of course, it's an of course to me. Maybe it's not an of course to you, but probably many of you will know exactly what it is by having previously watched my channel. The final deck that I chose as an earth deck is the Naturescapes Tarot by Tina of Queen of Wands on Instagram and elsewhere. This is a deck available through Make Playing Cards, and it is based in landscape photography. So thinking about the diverse landscapes of the earth, you know, in the different climates, different continents, different kinds of ecosystems, things like this. This deck speaks to that for me. I didn't actually include Tina's other deck, the Tarot of Architectural Objects. There's more kind of interior type scenes in that one. So that one actually feels more, you know, elementally, like suit specific to me than this one does. This one does really have an overarching earth energy for me. And this is a deck that I just love, the Naturescapes Tarot. And that has been a way for me to connect with earth energy and with nature when I've been stuck inside the house, you know, whether because of, you know, restrictions on things like parks that I would normally go to, or whether because of the, you know, waist deep snow that I'm currently buried under, which is not weather that I prefer to be outside in for a number of reasons. But this is definitely an earth-based deck for me, the Naturescapes Tarot. So I will list all of these decks in the description box below, but the earth decks that I could find in my tarot collection were the Majestic Earth Tarot, the Gentle Tarot, the Pagan Otherworlds, Antique Anatomy Ephemera Edition, Tarot of Trees, and Naturescapes Tarot. I'm looking forward to seeing what other decks folks choose for this, and, you know, how we all think of earth, you know, in terms of what decks speak to earth energy to us. I think will be interesting. And of course, I'm really looking forward to making this video, you know, a variant of this video 3 more times for airy decks, watery decks, and fiery decks. So I will look forward to that, you know, in the coming weeks and months. Thank you to Corvin for starting the video, the collection of videos that I'm sure will emerge in response and talking about earthy tarot decks. It's been fun. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you all again soon. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.